Hello everyone, today our topic is net ionic reaction. So this is a brief overview of this small lecture. We will have a brief introduction of the active components and how to write the net ionic equation. Just to refresh your mind that we have previously learned how to predict the final products by the double replacement reaction. It's simply just the exchange of the cations and anions of the reactants in the solution. But how do we know that the chemical reaction actually happens? In order to answer this question, hopefully you remember that from the previous lecture, we mentioned about the chemical driving forces, including the formation of water and the precipitate, and also the gas formation. So actually, when you see the formation of these three chemical substances, we can tell that the chemical reaction happens. For those chemical reactions that actually takes place, we should be able to identify the active components in the ionic equation here. So the active components means the ions that actually participate in the formation of the chemical substances. Here, I take a simple acid-base reaction as an example to see the active components. First of all, I want you to predict the final products of the hydrochloric acid and sodium hydroxide based on the double replacement reaction. We can see that the water will be formed because this is the strongest chemical driving force. Then the sodium chloride will be formed in its aqueous form. If we write the ionic equation, which is obtained by writing all of the soluble ionic compounds as ions for this reaction, the hydrochloric acid will be in the form of hydrogen ions and the chlorine ions, and the sodium hydroxide will be in the form of sodium ions and the hydroxide ions, which will form the water in its liquid form, and the sodium ions and the chlorine ions. If we take a closer look at this reaction, we can cancel the chlorine ions here and the sodium ions here. So we can say that in this reaction, the hydrogen and hydroxide ions are the active components of the acid-base reaction because they are left to form the water molecule. So the net ionic equation is still the ionic equation but without the ions that do not participate in the reaction. In this case, the sodium and chlorine ions, which are called the spectator ions, are cancelled. So in summary, we can write the net ionic equation for acid-base reaction in the form of hydrogen and hydroxide that forms water. This is a summary of this micro lesson. We've talked about how to predict the final products by the double replacement reaction, and you should be able to write the ionic equation by identifying all the ions in a solution. And finally, you should be able to write the net ionic reaction by canceling all the spectator ions and identify the active components that actually takes part in the ionic reaction. In order to let you have a deeper understanding of the chemical driving forces, can you write the active components of this reaction? In this case, the precipitation is formed here, the BaSO4. You can pause for 1 minute to practice on your own. Here is the answer that you can check by yourself. This is the end of the micro lesson. Thank you for listening.